Okay, folks, this is very relevant because something's happened again to me and it keeps happening all the time. And fortunately, my body does tolerate it very well. We'll find out what we're talking about in a minute. I'm going to look at that enlargement later. Okay, let's see what we have here. Okay, it's a box from a rat test. Okay, a ratty. Okay, and this is what we're interested in, the back of this. And I got COVID for the third time in 10 months. And it's asymptomatic, or close, very close to it. Maybe my nose is a little bit sniffly, but if anything, that's as major as it gets. Fortunately, my body does behave like that. It doesn't get violently ill, which is really an asset. Yeah, I'm going to make this 114. And I'm really grateful that I don't get violently ill. I haven't had long COVID. So I'm really fortunate, one of the fortunate people who can tolerate COVID very well. For some reason, I just don't get violently sick. I just function as normal, and the only thing that shows up that I've got a COVID is a fucking rat test. So I had to take time off work once again, and that's come up looking a treat. I don't know whether I want that for more or that. It looks really colourful. That's the way I was hoping, pretty much. But yeah, rat tests are really useful things to have. They're not always 100% accurate. That was my second rat test to confirm that I had it, because my first test looked a bit dodgy. Some of them do look a bit ambiguous, and they were ambiguous. They had to have a very close look. When you read the packaging, it says that a very faint line still is a positive result. So it was really faint, but it was there. I had to get sent home. That was on Wednesday, and today's Friday. And that's come up looking really quite interesting. I'm going to try another one. Yeah, I work in a workshop with people who've got disabilities. I'm one of the workers there at what they call an ADE, an Australian Disability Enterprise. And when someone gets COVID, they must go home, because we've got to protect those who are vulnerable to getting sick. We've got to protect them so we can't allow the disease to spread, because most of these people live in group homes for people with disabilities. So you can imagine they're very vulnerable and they're crowded. So I don't know about how crowded they are, but I know that this disease could just rip through a fucking sheltered, not a sheltered workshop, which is what this is, but through a group home. That's what I was meant to say. This could just rip through a group home just like wildfire, and that would not be good for people in the group home situation. They're very vulnerable, and it's very hard to control the spread once it starts. So it's only common sense that we have to stop work if we have COVID, to protect everyone else from potentially getting it. So they supplied us, they obviously had someone caught COVID, and they thought they'd just issue us with a sudden rat test. And yeah, I ended up taking a few hours off work because I was testing positive, folks. But if it rips through the workshop, it's likely to reach the homes, and it's going to be hard to control if everyone in the fucking workshop gets it. So it makes sense that we all get tested when someone's been infected, when an infection has occurred. I'm just wondering if we're going to light it a bit. Yeah, that looks better, actually. But yeah, it's not like we're working in a open employment. We're working in a place, as I said, group homes. Many of these, or most of these people, are at group homes, and it's very hard to control people with disability with their hygiene habits, because many people with disability, especially intellectual disability, have really bad hygiene, like hand hygiene. Like they often don't wash their hands after going to the toilet, for example. That's a big no-no, but it happens. Happens to normal people. I just want to clarify, it's not just people with disabilities. Normal people are like that too. I've seen normal people not wash their hands either, but you could consider it's more prevalent around people who are actually disabled, who've got worse hygiene. Many of them don't understand the consequences of not washing hands after going to the toilet. So that's a really good way to spread COVID. And then of course they're at the table eating, and if anyone gets COVID, they're fucked. So they have to fucking be looked after. And we have to just test when we have to test. And then I was one of the ones that came up positive, and it was my responsibility and their responsibility ultimately to send me home. So yeah. Anyway, that's come up looking quite a treat. I think we can now call this demo quits.